Bong the policeman has a terrible dream and wakes up next to his wife. She is pregnant and Bong is very concerned about her health. The cop goes to work and meets his boss. They are friends, and so the latter brings Bong baby clothes as a gift from his wife. At the same time, he talks about how Bong is being complained about again. He gets too much of his own way, but there's nothing Bong can do about it, that's his nature. He and the other cops are briefed on the details of the new case. Bong's phone rings, it's a colleague and old acquaintance of his, he asks for his help and Bong comes right away. However, the acquaintance has tricked him and just wants to use Bong's influence to get one guy to get away with a crime. He doesn't agree to it and gets very angry, but the friend keeps begging him. They go back to the table. Bong can't stand it, puts down the money for the tea he ordered and leaves. Everyone is shocked, but there is no stopping Bong. Honor is more important than such acquaintances. Former policeman NGO tells his men that if they screw up, they will be in trouble. The police go on the special operation. Bong was so eager to run, but when he and his team come to get their gear, they find out they're not on the list. He calls his supervisor and immediately asks what it is, but he says there is a plot against him, and his superiors are looking for an excuse to fire Bong. The police launch an operation without even realizing what traps have been laid against them. The fact is that NGO has set up a raid on both the cops and the bandits the police are supposed to arrest. Many cops die, and their boss tries to survive by all means. The bandits detonate dynamite and kill almost everyone. Bong notices this big explosion. The police inspector survives the explosion but continues to fight to his last round. The bandits taunt him and then drop him from a great height. Bong arrives at the scene, but turns out to be too late. Everyone is dead, and the inspector's body sticking out of the wreckage makes all the cops cringe. NGO hands over the goods taken from the bandits. His prison friend warns that he has lost his head too much, but NGO says it is too late to try to talk sense into him. He is angry and mad. Bong says goodbye to his boss and colleagues. A fierce desire awakens in him to put whoever did this behind bars. He remembers the days when he worked shoulder to shoulder with NGO. The latter was quickly promoted in a way that made Bong a little jealous. NGO found himself in a difficult situation. He urgently needed to get information out of the man. The chief said he would be covered up, so he ordered the policeman to beat up the suspect. He did give the whole truth about the kidnapped shareholder, but in response he bit the policeman and wouldn't unlock his teeth, so NGO had to hit him on the head with a huge beam. The suspect died, and NGO became insane and began to crave blood. Bong and the team got off the trail, which led to Guai, NGO's prison friend, but now what? After a big loss, the police are all stressed to the breaking point. Bong sends everyone home and goes to investigate the case himself next. He falls into a trap on his way to see Guai, but masterfully takes the hostage and gets right into his office. Bong interrogates Guai about drugs, because they belong to the bandit, but he says nothing, is rude to Bong and tries to kill him with a shotgun, but the cop is not timid and quickly reacts by taking out all the rest. When his powers aren't enough, he discovers he's not alone. The other cops came to the scene, too, even though he sent everyone home. That's what command means. Bong is driven to a standstill, but she holds back the crowd bursting through the door and scatters them one by one, despite the fact that all his weapons are his fists. He gets to Guai and makes him pay for his actions and words, but when they both fall into the sewers, the bandit cheats and grabs a bottle, with which he manages to cripple Bong's face. He is not lost and responds to the bandit with his fists, but the bandit grabs a bag and puts it over the cop's head and runs away. Bong almost catches up with the criminal, but suddenly he gets hit by a car. Behind the wheel is someone who clearly didn't want Guai to tell anything. It's the mercenary NGO. Guai's brothel is covered up and Bong and his crew discuss a small victory. It's not enough for them anyway. Bong comes home and discovers that his tooth has fallen out. His wife sees all this, but he finds no words to reassure her and just hugs her without answering any of her questions. What is there to say? The main thing is to keep her calm. Bong comes to lay flowers and meets NGO. His men attack Bong, but NGO calms them down. Together they discuss the latest events, after which they part ways. Bong recalls that fateful night when they killed the suspect. Their paths parted. NGO thought everything was okay, but Bong was shocked by what had happened. At the court hearing, the chief retracted his words and framed NGO's team. Bong was pressured to testify against NGO. He tried his best to save his colleagues, but he couldn't lie under oath. This wounded NGO in the heart, making him angry at all the people. The men on NGO's team are partying at the club, and after one of them stays with the girl at the hotel, he finds evidence of her cheating. The girl insults him for invading her personal space and the man kills her. The data from the cameras is transmitted to Bong, and the police begin a surveillance. The suspect himself, meanwhile, is on his gang's case. In doing so, he sets her up and the police manage to get two important cases at once. NGO goes down the stairs, which Bong climbs, and they almost cross paths. NGO backs out the door and waits, but Bong is no slouch and goes after him too, but the ex-cop steals a motorcycle and flees the scene. Bong jumps from the parking lot building onto a passing car and takes it from a passerby to catch up with the mysterious criminal. NGO successfully passes a police raid, dodges bullets, and shoots several cops himself. Bong and his team try their best to catch at least one gang member, and a little later he himself comes face to face with a motorcyclist, breaking his helmet, but the criminals still manage to escape. Bong talks to the captured outlaw and reminds him that his daughter is going to first grade, and here he is now in jail. NGO beats up the guilty gang member and then kills him altogether. He intends to release the remaining criminal from the police station. A colleague approaches Bong and convinces him to drop the case, but the cop reminds him that this is very important to all of them, and so he will continue on the case. NGO and his buddies come into the police station. He seems to have completely lost his fear. The criminal is shoved into a cell and interrogated, but he masterfully skirts the investigation. Bong goes to his cell and brings him out in the open, but he has no evidence to put the scoundrel behind bars. Absolutely all caught criminals behave according to the same scenario. They do not confess and talk about the missing bandit. At this time, the criminal himself is found dead in his room. All of his walls are covered in his own blood, but as we remember, NGO killed him back at the base. Bong runs into NGO's room and tells him what's going on. The bandit again manages to complain about the injustice of the world to him, but Bong reminds him that he didn't go to jail because of injustice, but because he killed a man. The 48 hours pass and NGO asks him to let him go, but in the same second the cops run into the room and tell him that a man with explosives has taken his wife hostage. This was set up by NGO before he even surrendered to the police for 48 hours. The man, who used to be a police inspector, has handcuffed himself to Bong's wife and asks to hear him out. He tells her that he pressured NGO's team, that he thought only of his own career, and that he ended up going to jail. All of this is watched by NGO, who has attached a camera to the explosives on the former inspector's body. After Bong listens to the former inspector's confession, NGO starts a timer on the explosive. 30 seconds to escape. The bomb squad approaches them, but Bong keeps them away and shoots them in their shields to keep them away. He asks for tongs and tries to defuse the bomb himself, but fails and the snipers kill the former inspector, because that's the nature of the bomb. When the pulse stops, the timer stops. Bong manages to save his wife, but NGO cheats and the bomb still explodes. At the hospital he is told that his wife is fine, and at that time higher-ranking policemen come to him and tell him that he must answer for his behavior, for shooting at the policemen's shields. What a nerve to come straight to the hospital. Bong goes with them. NGO's buddy says he doesn't need him anymore and he starts a showdown right in his office. Along with his buddies, they scatter everyone there and plant the evidence. Bong gets into the office and has to justify himself to everyone else, but he doesn't have time to start and the whole team walks into the office and says that they will answer with him. The cops appreciate this support, but still Bong has to answer for his own actions. He turns to his colleagues and says the world is not black or white but gray. He says he had no choice, he was only saving his wife. He thinks only of the quality of work, not quantity, and at the end of his speech he promises to catch the criminals. The cops close their computers and say they are suspending the investigation, and Bong has 24 hours to deal with everything. He arrives at the recent crime scene. The police decide that the flash drive is leading them down the right trail. Bong quickly realizes it's a trap and asks the police to go to another bank, but they don't listen to him. NGO, meanwhile, is already in the midst of robbing the bank, and when he and his cronies leave the bank, Bong sees him. He immediately turns the car around and starts chasing NGO's car. He is not that cunning. The chase gathers crazy momentum, and both stores and pedestrians manage to get hurt. Things go too far and they have to shoot each other on the road. Bong asks NGO to put the guns down, but they don't listen and shoot civilians and police officers. Many people manage to get hurt, including Bong's team. NGO confronts the advancing Bong face to face. They are about to kill each other, but NGO keeps throwing out cunning after cunning and pelting the entire battle area with grenades. Bong briefly loses consciousness, but recovers in time to save his colleague. NGO's men die one by one. They are not deterred by any methods. One even takes a little girl hostage, despite the fact that he himself is an ex-cop. NGO and his last buddy run into an underpass and continue to shoot back at the police. As a result, his friend suffers and dies, detonating a grenade in his hands while NGO runs away. They get into an abandoned church, and NGO almost kills Bong. The bandit pulls out 2 knives, and the policeman takes his baton. NGO attacks, launching lightning strikes that cleave the air, but Bong dodges absolutely every one. Soon they have to part their weapons and Bong begins to gain momentum while NGO takes blow after blow, but then he grabs a sledgehammer and takes the initiative again. Bong takes full advantage of the church under construction, but NGO manages to stab his arm with a screwdriver. Bong gets angry and the cop breaks the bandit's arm. They lie mutilated on the floor and look at each other, remembering the moments when they work side by side. The sniper's lasers shine on NGO, and he calms down. Bong leaves, and NGO gets up on the piano and asks Bong if their fates might have turned out differently if they had switched places on that tragic day. No one answers that question, but the answer hangs in the air. Of course not.